If you or a loved one is in need of healing today, this video is for you. Save it and replay it as many times as you need to get the seed inside your heart and water it daily so that it will grow. Some of the scriptures that you're going to hear today are going to be quite familiar to you, and some you may never have thought of as being healing scriptures before, but I'm including them to ensure you that your healing and your loved one's health is a priority to God. Isaiah 41 verse 10, Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee, yea, I will help thee. Yea, I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness. Isaiah 41:10, World English Bible. Don't you be afraid, for I am with you. Don't be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Yes, I will help you. Yes, I will uphold you with the right hand of my righteousness. Jeremiah 17:14. Heal me, O Lord, and I shall be healed. Save me, and I shall be saved, for thou art my praise. Jeremiah 33 verse 6. Behold, I will bring it health and cure, and I will cure them, and will reveal unto them the abundance of peace and truth. Isaiah 53 verse 5. But he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. Psalms 147 verse 3. He healeth the broken in heart, and bindeth up their wounds. Matthew 4 verse 23. And Jesus went about all Galilee, teaching in their synagogues and preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing all manner of sickness and all manner of disease among the people. Matthew 8 verses 2 through 3. Behold, a leper came to him and worshipped him, saying, Lord, if you want to, you can make me clean. Jesus stretched out his hand and touched him, saying, I want to, be made clean. Immediately his leprosy was cleansed. Matthew chapter 8 verses 5 through 10 and 13. When he came into Capernaum, a centurion came to him asking for help, saying, Lord, my servant lies in the house, paralyzed, grievously tormented. Jesus said to him, I will come and heal him. The centurion answered, Lord, I'm not worthy for you to come under my roof. Just say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I am also a man under authority, having under myself soldiers. I tell this one, go, and he goes, and tell another, come, and he comes, and tell my servant, do this, and he does it. When Jesus heard it, he marveled and said to those who followed, Most certainly I tell you, I haven't found so great a faith, not even in Israel. Jesus said to the centurion, Go your way, let it be done for you as you have believed. His servant was healed in that hour. Matthew 9 verses 28 through 29. And when he was come into the house, the blind men came to him. And Jesus saith unto them, Believe ye that I am able to do this? They said unto him, Yea, Lord. Then touched he their eyes, saying, According to your faith be it done unto you. Matthew 9 verse 35. And Jesus went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing every sickness and every disease among the people. Matthew 12 verse 22. Then was brought unto him one possessed with a devil, blind and dumb, and he healed him, insomuch that the blind and dumb both spake and saw. Matthew 14 verses 35 through 36. And when the men of that place had knowledge of him, they sent out into all the country round about, and brought unto him all that were diseased, and besought him that they might only touch the hem of his garment, and as many as touched were made perfectly whole. Matthew 15 verse 30. And the great multitudes came unto him, having with them those that were lame, blind, dumb, maimed, and many others, and cast them down at Jesus' feet, and he healed them. Matthew 17, verses 14 through 18. When they came to the multitude, a man came to him, kneeling down to him and saying, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is epileptic and suffers grievously. For he often falls into the fire and often into the water. So I brought him to your disciples, and they could not cure him. Jesus answered, Faithless and perverse generation, how long will I be with you? How long will I bear with you? Bring him here to me. Jesus rebuked the demon, and it went out of him, and the boy was cured from that very hour. Matthew 19, verse 2. And great multitudes followed him, and he healed them there. Matthew 20, verses 32 through 34. Jesus stood still and called them and asked, What do you want me to do for you? They told him, Lord, that our eyes may be opened. Jesus, being moved with compassion, touched their eyes, and immediately their eyes received their sight, and they followed him. Mark 1, verses 30 through 31. Now Simon's wife's mother lay sick with a fever, and immediately they told him about her. He came and took her by the hand and raised her up. The fever left her immediately, and she served them. Mark 2, verses 11 through 12. I tell you, arise, take up your mat, and go to your house. He arose, and immediately took up the mat, and went out in front of them all, so that they were all amazed and glorified God, saying, We never saw anything like this. Mark 3, verses 10 through 11. For he had healed many, insomuch that they pressed upon him for to touch him, as many as had plagues. And unclean spirits, when they saw him, fell down before him and cried, saying, Thou art the Son of God. Mark 5, verses 25 through 29. And a certain woman, which had an issue of blood 12 years, and had suffered many things of many physicians, and had spent all that she had, and was nothing bettered, but rather grew worse, when she had heard of Jesus, came in the press behind, and touched his garment. For she said, If I may touch but his clothes, I shall be whole. And straightway the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of that plague. Mark 6:13. And they cast out many devils, and anointed with oil many that were sick, and healed them. Mark 6, verse 56. Wherever he entered, into villages or into cities or into the country, they laid the sick into the marketplaces and begged him that they might touch the fringe of his garment, and as many as touched him were made well. Mark 7, verses 32 through 35. They brought to him one who was deaf and had an impediment in his speech. They begged him to lay his hands on him. He took him aside from the multitude privately, and put his fingers into his ears, and he spat and touched his tongue. Looking up to heaven, he sighed and said to them, Ephphatha, that is, be opened. Immediately his ears were opened, and the impediment of his tongue was released, and he spoke clearly. Mark 8, verses 22 through 25. He came to Bethsaida. They brought a blind man to him and begged him to touch him. He took hold of the blind man by the hand and brought him out of the village. When he had spat on his eyes and laid his hands on him, he asked him if he saw anything. He looked up and said, I see men, for I see them like trees walking. Then again he laid his hands on his eyes. He looked intently and was restored and saw everyone clearly. Mark 10, verses 51 through 52. Jesus asked him, What do you want me to do for you? The blind man said, Rabboni, that I may see again. Jesus said to him, Go your way, your faith has made you well. Immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus on the way. Luke 5, verses 12 through 13. And it came to pass, when he was in a certain city, behold, a man full of leprosy, who, seeing Jesus, fell on his face and besought him, saying, Lord, if thou wilt, thou canst make me clean. And he put forth his hand and touched him, saying, I will, be thou clean. And immediately the leprosy departed from him. Luke 5 verses 24 through 25. But that you may know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins, he said to the paralyzed man, I tell you, arise, take up your cot, and go to your house. Immediately he rose up before them, and took up that which he was laying on, and departed to his house, glorifying God. Luke 6 verse 10. And looking round about upon them all, he said unto the man, Stretch forth thine hand. And he did so, and his hand was restored whole as the other. Luke 7 verse 21. And in that same hour he cured many of their infirmities and plagues, and evil spirits, and unto many that were blind he gave sight. Luke 8 verses 43 and 44. A woman who had a flow of blood for 12 years, who had spent all her living on physicians and could not be healed by any, came behind him, and touched the fringe of his cloak. Immediately the flow of her blood stopped. Luke 9 verse 11. And the people, when they knew it, followed him. And he received them, and spake unto them of the kingdom of God, and healed them that had a need of healing. Luke 9 verse 42. While he was still coming, the demon threw him down, and he convulsed violently. But Jesus rebuked the unclean spirit, healed the boy, and gave him back to his father. Luke 17 verses 12 through 14. As he went into a certain village, 10 men who were lepers met him, who stood at a distance. They lifted up their voices, saying, Jesus, Master, have mercy on us. When he saw them, he said to them, Go and show yourselves to the priests. As they went, they were cleansed. Luke 18, verses 35 through 43. And it came to pass that as he was come nigh unto Jericho, a certain blind man sat by the wayside begging. And hearing the multitude pass by, he asked what it meant. And they told him that Jesus of Nazareth passeth by. And he cried, saying, Jesus, thou Son of David, have mercy on me. And they which went before rebuked him, that he should hold his peace. But he cried so much the more, Thou Son of David, have mercy on me. And Jesus stood, and commanded him to be brought unto him. And when he was come near, he asked him, saying, What wilt thou that I shall do unto thee? And he said, Lord, that I may receive my sight. And Jesus said unto him, Receive thy sight, thy faith hath saved thee. And immediately he received his sight and followed him, glorifying God. And all the people, when they saw it, gave praise to God. John 5, verses 2 through 9. Now in Jerusalem, by the sheep gate, there is a pool, which is called in Hebrew Bethesda, having 5 porches. In these lay a great multitude of those who are sick, blind, lame, or paralyzed, waiting for the moving of the water. For an angel went down at certain times into the pool, and stirred up the water. Whoever stepped in first after the stirring of the water was healed of whatever disease he had. A certain man was there who had been sick for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had been sick for a long time, he asked him, Do you want to be made well? The sick man answered him, Sir, I have no one to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up. But while I'm coming, another steps down before me. Jesus said to him, Arise, take up your mat and walk. Immediately the man was made well, and took up his mat and walked. John 9, verses 1 through 7. As he passed by, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Jesus answered, This man didn't sin, nor did his parents, but that the works of God might be revealed in him. I must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. The night is coming when no one can work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world. When he had said this, he spat on the ground, made mud with the saliva, anointed the blind man's eyes with the mud, and said to him, Go, wash in the pool of Siloam, which means sent. So he went away, washed, and came back seeing. 3 John 1 verse 2. Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospers. James 5 verse 16. Confess your faults one to another, and pray one for another, that ye may be healed. The effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. James 5 verse 15. And the prayer of faith shall save the sick, and the Lord shall raise him up, and if he committed sins, they shall be forgiven. 1 Peter 2 verse 24. He himself bore our sins in his body on a tree, that we, having died to sins, might live to righteousness. You were healed by his wounds. And now I pray, brother or sister, that the wounds in your heart and the wounds in your body acknowledge the healing power of God's words that you've heard today. Thank you for listening, friend. If you have found this to be encouraging and edifying, please consider subscribing to this channel.